The morning sun had barely climbed above the skyline when a single joke changed 2 lives forever. People standing outside the luxury auto showroom laughed as a sharply dressed CEO pointed toward a dusty work truck parked beside a gleaming silver Porsche. She smiled with the confidence of someone who had never heard the word impossible and casually announced that if the stranger could fix her prized sports car without expensive diagnostic equipment, she would marry him. The crowd erupted with amusement because the man she was teasing looked nothing like the elite mechanics who serviced millionaires. His faded jeans carried stains from years of honest work, his boots were worn thin, and beside him stood a little girl holding his hand with complete trust. No one noticed that the quiet father didn't look embarrassed. Instead, he looked at the engine as though it had already started telling him its story. Before we continue, if you believe kindness deserves a second chance and that people should never be judged by appearances, please like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to Lifeline Tales for more emotional stories that stay with you long after they end. The man was named Rowan Mercer, a widowed father whose greatest treasure was his 7-year-old daughter, Nina. Every morning before school she rode beside him in his aging truck while he traveled from one repair job to another. Rowan had once dreamed of designing performance engines, but life had rewritten every plan after losing his wife to a sudden illness. Medical bills consumed everything he owned, forcing him to sell his workshop and begin again with only his tools, his experience, and the promise he had made beside a hospital bed that their daughter would never grow up believing she had lost both parents. Since then, every sunrise belonged to work, every evening belonged to Nina, and every sacrifice belonged to love. Across the city, Celine Ashcroft carried a very different burden. As the young CEO of an international automotive company, she was admired for her intelligence but feared for her perfectionism. Investors praised her bold decisions, magazines celebrated her success, and competitors envied her achievements. Yet beneath every expensive suit was a woman exhausted by expectations. She trusted contracts more than people because success had taught her that smiles often hid selfish intentions. Even her playful challenge to the stranger was less about arrogance than disappointment. 3 certified technicians had already failed to explain why her beloved vintage Porsche kept shutting down during daylight drives despite passing every computerized inspection. While spectators expected Rowan to refuse, he simply asked for permission to open the hood. His calm voice surprised everyone. There was no anger, no attempt to defend his dignity, only quiet confidence earned through years of solving problems others considered impossible. Celine folded her arms with an amused expression and stepped aside. The crowd moved closer, cameras already recording what they believed would become another embarrassing internet video. Rowan ignored every pair of curious eyes. He listened instead to the ticking sounds beneath the hood, touched several hoses, smelled the faint trace of overheated wiring, and gently examined parts no scanner would prioritize. His daughter watched silently because she had seen that focused expression before. It was the same face her father wore whenever a customer had nearly given up hope. Within minutes Rowan asked for a small flashlight, a screwdriver, and a piece of electrical tape from his truck. Several people laughed louder. They expected specialized equipment worth thousands of dollars, not simple hand tools carried by neighborhood mechanics. Rowan continued patiently until he discovered a tiny crack hidden beneath protective insulation where heat expanded the damaged wire every afternoon. The fault appeared only after prolonged sunlight warmed the engine bay, explaining why expensive computers repeatedly missed the problem inside cool service garages. He repaired the damaged section with remarkable precision before carefully securing every connection. When Celine started the Porsche again, the engine settled into the smoothest idle it had produced in months. She drove around the block once, then twice, then disappeared for nearly half an hour. The crowd slowly fell silent. When the silver Porsche returned, Celine stepped out without the confident smile she had worn earlier. She looked instead at the mechanic whose hands still carried grease beneath the fingernails and realized she had mistaken simplicity for incompetence. She quietly admitted that every symptom had vanished. The laughter from earlier dissolved into uncomfortable silence. Rowan never reminded her about the joke she had made. He simply cleaned his hands, smiled at his daughter, accepted a modest payment for the repair, and prepared to leave. That unexpected humility unsettled Celine more than any argument could have. Most people would have demanded recognition. Rowan wanted only enough money to buy groceries, pay school fees, and continue living honestly. As father and daughter drove away, Celine found herself watching the old truck disappear into traffic instead of returning to her meeting. Something about that brief encounter refused to leave her thoughts. For the first time in years, someone had solved a problem without trying to impress her, flatter her, or gain an advantage. He had simply done excellent work because it was the right thing to do. Later that afternoon, curiosity overcame pride. Using the payment receipt, Celine located Rowan's tiny repair garage on the edge of town. The building was weathered, the paint had faded years ago, and the sign above the entrance leaned slightly to one side. Inside, however, every tool rested perfectly organized. Old engines lined the shelves like carefully preserved pieces of history, each restored with extraordinary craftsmanship. Nina sat at a small table finishing homework while occasionally handing her father a wrench exactly when he needed it. Celine noticed something that expensive workshops often lacked. Customers entered carrying worry and left carrying relief. Rowan treated every driver with the same respect whether they owned delivery vans or luxury sedans. He explained repairs honestly, refused unnecessary charges, and sometimes quietly reduced bills for elderly customers who struggled to pay. Success had never made him wealthy, but integrity had made him trusted. That evening Celine returned to her office unable to focus on financial reports. She began investigating Rowan's past and discovered something astonishing. Years earlier he had worked as one of the most promising young engine engineers in the country. Several innovative designs carried his name before family tragedy forced him to abandon a prestigious career. Reading article after article about his achievements, Celine felt ashamed that she had judged him by faded clothing instead of extraordinary character. The next morning she arrived at the garage with an offer that surprised everyone. She wanted Rowan to become a senior consultant for her company's restoration division, leading a project dedicated to preserving classic performance vehicles. The salary was generous enough to transform his daughter's future overnight. Rowan didn't answer immediately. Money mattered, but promises mattered more. He asked whether accepting the position would force him to become someone who forgot why he first learned to repair cars. Celine assured him she wasn't hiring a title. She was asking for the honesty and wisdom she had witnessed beneath the hood of her Porsche. As Rowan looked toward Nina smiling proudly from the doorway, he realized that sometimes life doesn't reward people when they stop struggling. It rewards them when they keep choosing kindness despite every reason to become bitter. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like the video, subscribe to Lifeline Tales, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that true character is revealed through actions, not appearances. Special request, before the ending, tell us in the comments, what matters more, wealth or integrity? Months later, the restored garage remained open because Rowan refused to abandon the community that had supported him through his darkest years. His new role gave him resources to mentor young mechanics, create scholarships for struggling students, and build a future where his daughter could dream without fear. Celine often smiled whenever she remembered the joke she had made on that sunny morning. She had challenged a stranger to fix a Porsche. Instead, he quietly repaired something far more valuable, her ability to trust people again. And although no wedding ever resulted from that playful promise, something even rarer was born, a friendship built on respect, humility, and second chances. Sometimes life doesn't keep the words we speak in laughter. Instead, it gives us something far greater than the promise we imagined. It gives us the people we never knew we needed.